Hello, hello.
Hello. Uh, good morning, delegates. Welcome to Huddle 2021. We would like to start with our inaugural session, India Crypto Ecosystem. Our panelists, our speakers are across the industry. We have Principal Ashim Sood Law Offices, Dr. Gulshan Advisory Board Member, Document Distinguished Fellow, ORF, R. Gandhi, former Deputy Governor, Reserve Bank of India, Sumit Gupta, founder, CoinDCX, Tamal Bandyopadhyay, Business Standard. I'd like to hand it over to the speakers to facilitate an exciting discussion.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ashim Sood. I'm a lawyer and I'm in the company of a very distinguished panel. And this is the inaugural session of HODA 2021, where we're going to talk about the crypto ecosystem in India. Uh, I had an opportunity to be part of that ecosystem a couple of years ago when the Supreme Court struck down the RBI circular, which essentially banned cryptocurrencies being operating in this country. And that circular was a 2018 circular, and it says something about technology. When you notice how much things have changed from 2018, uh, we had to uh, explaining cryptocurrency to Supreme Court judges was, of course, uh, something that lawyers had to train themselves to do. But it was hard to explain cryptocurrency to most laymen and laywomen as well. Today, it seems as though most of the country knows exactly what cryptocurrency is, and they know exactly what its uses are, what its risks are, everything. This conference is going to help us understand a little more about the cryptocurrency ecosystem. And I think it's important to understand that amidst all the noise that we hear about cryptocurrency, we hear people who are completely in favor of it, people who are completely against it, regulators calling for it to be banned, other people asking for no regulation. Amidst all that noise, what I have noticed is that cryptocurrency has stepped away from the noise and made a bit of a niche for itself as a legitimate asset class. Today, the great changes that financial newspapers around the world, which used to have columns for stock markets, for capital markets, for bonds, also now have columns for crypto assets. Now that says something about the transformation that has taken place in the last few years. But like every financial asset class, and let's call it that because that is what it is, like every financial asset class, there is a key aspect that cryptocurrency must overcome, and that is the aspect of trust. It must be trustworthy to investors, it must be trustworthy to regulators, it must it must fulfill certain tests. Any cryptocurrency must fulfill certain tests. It must ensure that there is safety and stability. There are guardrails against illicit activity, and that ultimately there is some amount of regulation that assures investors that they're not being taken for a ride. That is the next challenge for cryptocurrency. It's overcome a very, very skeptical universe over the last 4 years to establish itself as a legitimate financial asset. But I hazard that the next 2 or 3 years are going to be as important for its survival, for it to become, and these are the 2 or 3 years which will decide whether it becomes an outlier, some kind of fringe asset, or whether it becomes a part of our mainstream financial system. And here to talk about all these issues are four very esteemed guests, people from diverse walks of life, people from the industry, uh, Mr. Bandyopadhyay, who's a journalist who's been watching these events for a long time, who has his pulse, who has his pulse on the financial markets. Mr. Gandhi, a regulator who knows exactly everything about the monetary system of this country. He's a former deputy governor of the Reserve Bank. Mr. Rai, Dr. Rai, who is a very esteemed participant in the country's national security apparatus. He was the first cyber security advisor. And of course, Sumit Gupta, who's the CEO of CoinDCX, who are all here to talk to us about what their belief about the future of the crypto ecosystem in India is, what they think are the challenges, how those challenges can be overcome, and how cryptocurrency in their view, is likely to emerge in the next few years. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to request every speaker to talk for about 5 minutes about their views based on their unique perspectives, on their expertise, on their views on the emergence of cryptocurrency. And then after everybody's done giving us their views, which I think will be very valuable, I'll be asking them a few questions about the ecosystem. Let me start with Doctor. And if there's time with the audience, there's a chat box that you have in which you can post your questions. If there are any questions that have not been covered and that are relevant to this panel, I'm going to try and spend 10 minutes at the end putting them to the panel. So I'd like to start with Mr. Gandhi, and maybe, sir, if you can open us out on this panel.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashim. Good morning, everybody. It has been a pleasure to be interacting with all of you on a very, very current topic. Yes, crypto. I'll just start with as crypto without adding any other name to it, in the sense whether it's a currency or it's an asset or anything. That down the line we'll figure it out. So the crypto, when out of its existence of over 12 years now, it has traveled quite a bit. From the very purpose for which it was originally designed or thought of, and the way it has progressed, and today how it is being utilized, there has been a dramatic change all over. The original purpose, all of us know that it came out of the mistrust about authoritarian currency, in the sense, and the philosophy was to have some anarchist disruption. They wanted to create a private currency with crypto logic, and the money that could not be taxed or traced. That was the origination of the thought, or the idea on virtual or digital currency. And thereafter, the way it has progressed today, it is completely changed all over the world, including in India. It is now more and more people start putting faith in it, in terms of wanting to deal in that legally. And in that process, naturally, the next stage has come, as just now Wasim did mention, that kind of regulation is being called for. So that's the way it has traveled all over. So crypto can be seen in many different ways. It can be called a currency. It could be considered as a foreign currency. It could be a payment instrument. It could be a financial instrument. It could be a commodity or a property or a speculative asset. So it has elements of all these things, or some element of all these things combined together. But we can equally argue why it is not a currency, why it is not a foreign currency, why it is not a payment instrument, why it is not a financial instrument. Like that, we can go on debating about. So now, over these years of after quite a lot of debate, people have fully understood that it cannot be a currency, because a currency, the fundamental element of a currency is a legal tender, by which you can compel other party to accept the currency as a payment to settle transaction. Here, because you cannot compel a cryptocurrency to be accepted by the another person, then it is not a legal tender. So then is it a foreign currency? Because it is not issued by any foreign authority, so it is not a foreign currency as well. Is it a payment instrument? No, it is not a payment instrument, because it is not issued by anybody. It has been created just on its own, kind of. There is no clear identified issuer. That's for the same logic, it is not a financial instrument also. And ultimately, everybody has accepted that people find it valuable. That would mean that it is an asset. So when it is an asset, what are the characteristics of an asset? It can be virtual, or it could be real. It could be it could have value, which could be fluctuating. It could be bought, sold, traded, dealt with, and through contracts, either in full or in parts. Either it can be used in divided fashion or undivided fashion, and it can be bartered for goods and services, and it can be monetized in parts or in full. So that's why the crypto, ultimately today, the general consensus among many policymakers is that it should be deemed as an asset, not as a currency, not as a payment instrument, not as a financial instrument. So once we get an understanding and acceptance that it is an asset, then it becomes relatively little easier to go ahead with certain kind of regulation. The conflict that has arisen is basically because its possibility of using these virtual assets or crypto assets for criminal activity. So as any jurisdiction, whether it is a democratic country or otherwise, everyone would like to have a clear framework by which any part of the economic activity is not being supportive of any criminal activity. So that is where the real difficulty comes in vis-a-vis the crypto assets, because there is a possibility, and not only possibility, there is quite a bit of anecdotal evidence that crypto assets have been utilized for increasingly or by in large scale for illegal activities, ransom attacks, and etc., etc. So that is a reason the conflict has arisen. So the very idea of crypto, original idea was that it should be anonymous, independent, and it cannot be taxed or tracked. So as I said, every society will have its own rules, which expects compliance by all its members, and it penalizes non-compliance. So a state would always want to give freedom to its citizens in terms of economic transactions. It enforces contractual obligations, and most jurisdiction taxes the income, profits, gain, property, or wealth. So any economic activity should be amenable to these kind of things. So the questions that I pose for crypto enthusiasts is like this: can we provide authentic information about how much of crypto has been mined, how much is being bought or sold or held by people? If this is possible, then there is it will facilitate the regulation easily. The the question is that we have to make certain assumptions. If we make certain assumptions like this, we can find a half solution for the current conundrum that we have. The assumptions are like this: that crypto owners would want to comply with law. That's the first thing. Then the crypto owners would like to deal in cryptos explicitly through legal means, and they would comply with the tax laws. These assumptions, if we make, then we will be able to find solutions for the ongoing problem that we have on our hand. So the solution that I would propose, in the sense that obviously it will need quite a lot of discussions around it, is that on entry into the in a citizen's hand, the property, it should be treated, deemed as foreign asset. Then it should be paid through normal channels when it is bought, and if not, it will be deemed as mined and the capital gained and taxed heavily. And that is something like voluntary disclosure. Then, if it is proved mined, then capital gained and taxed slightly lightly. It should be fully tracked through depository or repository of information about that. Then exchanges can facilitate trade, that is buy and sell and settle in terms of payment and receive. But it should be on DVP basis, deliver versus payment, rather than payment versus payment. If the exchanges in this fashion, the exchanges could be regulated by SEBI. So this will be the kind of solution I would think. And in terms of time, let me stop at this stage. Later on, take questions and give my own other ideas on this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gandhi. That was very insightful, and I think coming from an authority like you, it will have some weight with anyone who's listening on the regulatory side. I'd like to turn next to Mr. Bandyopadhyay, who's an eminent financial journalist, I'd be particularly interested to hear his views on this, especially the evolution of this as an asset class and how or if it has gained legitimacy in the financial classes. Mr. Bandyopadhyay, please go ahead.
Thanks, Ashim. Am I audible? It's fine, right?
Yes, you. Are.
Yeah. I think Mr. Gandhi has summarized, even though he's an ex-regulator, but that is the regulator's point of view. And it's not only Reserve Bank of India. I would like to believe other regulators, including SEBI, are not exactly excited about crypto. I think it's looked at something like a gambling or betting, which is not allowed in India. You spoke about 2018 Reserve Bank of India first circular. Subsequently, I think overall 3 circulars had been issued by Reserve Bank, and the last one is in May, which following the Supreme Court judgment, it said we are not telling the banks not to do it, but and the prima facie it sounds that RBI is open to the idea of having crypto as a currency, stroke asset, stroke whatever you say. But if you see the fine prints, it says that the onus is on you to make sure XYZ. So it did not. It's clearly RBI is not very. It's not favorable to it. I don't have any solution, but let me give you a few things which is quite interesting, and then certain other points. As we speak, the latest Economist has a story. El Salvador, which is the first country to embrace crypto with open arms, they have opened 200 Bitcoin cash machines, but there are very, very few takers of that. Now I'm reading out some of the newspaper clippings. Bloomberg story. Nomura offers pizza and pasta for tradable crypto tokens. It's a very fancy food, and you can have that. Raghuram Rajan very recently said that it's little vague. He said, yes, clarity we need, but it can be used for cross-border payments. But how, etc., he has not given the solution. And then IMF is talking about it's a very risky bet. It's a completely negative about crypto. Again, this has happened, I think, end August something, one IMF report around. And final story, which one of the business newspaper done, that following the May clarification by Reserve Bank of India, Indian banks, which the crypto lovers will like it or love it, Indian banks actually have started again wing back or rather the opening the crypto accounts. It's talking about HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank are allowing transaction in these virtual currencies through UPI platform. That's what it says. These banks did not respond to an email, etc. So these are the kind of in the recent past fortnight news reports. Yet another report is that blockchain data platform Chainalysis. What Chainalysis said, first it says that in India, it has grown about 200-fold in the past 1 year, from $200 million to 40 billion. There are 50 million cryptocurrency traders in India, about two-thirds of the number of US and 6 times than UK. So that's what, you like it or not, that's what the crypto is, going ahead in India. Another recent report says investment in cryptocurrencies has been okay. It says that it says India, it's going up and up. US topped the list, but China there, Japan there, UK there, Russia there. That's the top five. India has not got into the top five, but India is going. I mean, there is trade is going on and all. Now, why is Reserve Bank of India's reservations? And if you are aware, it was supposed to be picked up in the Parliament in the monsoon session. It did not happen, and the report which was done, which was instituted by, I mean, done by a committee set up by the government where all regulators had representation. It's not formally out, but my understanding is this, and our finance minister had spoken about the report, and it will be considered in parliament, etc. It's not yet formally out, but my understanding is this report is, it's very, very negative. It is not in favor of cryptocurrencies. Now, what Mr. Gandhi said, I am repeating that, and this is the RBI point of view, is this, that it can't be slotted. What is it? I mean, is it a commodity? Is it a currency? Is it a part of the payment system? It is just not. Whether you call it Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin, whatever is it, you can't slot any one of them. And Reserve Bank of India, or for that matter, most central banks do not consider as a currency because it's not issued by the central bank and doesn't have any sovereign backing, which is the primary characteristic of a currency. So why would RBI accept it as a currency? It has a very poor storage value. It's not widely accepted. Its price fluctuates, so on and so forth. So it's a strongly against this, the basic principle of currency is not accepted. And second, of course, the anonymity, which again Mr. Gandhi put across this because the KYC norm, you don't have it. So how do you do it and all? So it cannot be. But the other part of it, I don't know whether, well, Reserve Bank of India doesn't want to accept it as a currency. But why is it doesn't even accept it as a asset? That's the question I think we need to ask. So, all right, it's not currency, but allow us to be in the asset. I don't know, but I think RBI's point of view is this: there is no future cash flow, and it fluctuates because of speculation, and there is no consumer protection. I have a point of view here. In that case, if you say that there is no, it involves speculation and involves no consumer protection, then what happened in the stock market? I mean, I can lose money completely. An entity can go bankrupt if I am not have done my due diligence and put in my money. Who is responsible for that? So speculation is not necessarily, and where is no, I mean, even the gold price, there's speculation. Real estate, all the asset classes you are talking about, whether it's a bond, equity, gold, real estate, these are the primary four assets class. All the asset class are involved speculation, and all the asset class are fraught with risk. So if it's not a currency, should we consider as an asset? Of course, provided all the anonymities, etc., KYC, etc., taken care of. So that's the yet another thing is RBI point of view or the global point of view. This is a big energy guzzler. No production of cryptocurrency. It's too much of cost involved. In fact, El Salvador is the first country in the world to accept Bitcoin as a legal tender. Is now exploring the energy from volcanoes, which how they can be harnessed to power the mining of crypto. So I would not take too much of it. So I think there are clearly at this point of time, our regulators, predominantly Reserve Bank of India and others, are not favor of cryptocurrency for multiple reasons. That's the one point of view and all. My limited point is this: yes, it should not be, it cannot be treated as currency for multiple reasons, but can we explore treating it as an asset class, despite the involvement of speculation and too much of risk and all? if we put the right checks and balances and etc etc. And finally, I would like to say that I think there is a let's not confuse between cryptocurrency and blockchain. Blockchain is a process. I think all of us, including the regulators, are absolutely fine with blockchain, because blockchain has its own, and blockchain has multi-purpose uses and all. So let's not confuse. There are a bit of confusion about in the mind of many that cryptocurrency and blockchain is the same thing. They are not. Blockchain is the process, and I don't think anybody, any entity, any individual has any reservation about blockchain as a process. I end here. Thank you.
No. Thank you, Mr. Bandyopadhyay. I think that's a good summary of most of the viewpoints that prevail at the moment vis-a-vis cryptocurrency. What I've learned about technology is that I think ultimately you have to use it both. It gets used both as a weapon and as a tool, and that's only something that emerges over the years. It's hard to tell at the very beginning, and at the same time, anyone who creates a technology is only the creator. It Once they let it out into the world, it takes a shape of its own. It may have started out as an alternate currency of some kind, but I think largely there is now a movement around the world for it to be a very much a regular asset, which is part of the financial system. I think Dr. Rai was with us, but he seems to have dropped off. I'd hope to have him next. But Sumit, would you be able to enlighten us on what you've seen over the last few years in terms of the emergence of this asset class, and what you think the future holds as somebody who's very much in the industry? You're on mute, I think.
So,
Yes. So thanks for giving me this opportunity. And you mentioned a very beautiful point, Mr. Sood, about the emergence of crypto as an asset class. I've heard about Bitcoin around 7 years back, and since the last 5 years, I've been very actively involved in this space, and I've seen coming out away from the noise which you mentioned at the start, and right now positioning itself as a legitimate asset class. We all know. There's a lot of confusion in terms of how do we define cryptos, but I strongly feel that the next 2 3 years, which you also mentioned, Mr. Sood, is going to be a critical deciding years, right, for to shape the future of crypto, and that's really happening. And the industry is so competitive, and I've seen it happening like in other countries. It's so competitive that it's moving really fast, right? It's moving really fast, and in India we are in a state of dilemma where we are currently discussing about the definition, and definition is absolutely important for us to define rules. And Mr. Gandhi also mentioned about this. A lot has changed in the last 10 years. Since earlier positioning itself as an anonymous currency, now it is positioning itself as a digital store of value. And I think this is the case with every technology, right? Technology, what I've learned in life is like technology always moves faster than the law, right? So law just follows the technological pace, and in such situations the instinct of regulator should not be to clamp down the technology and then figure out regulations. I think the approach should be that, okay, this technology is new, it's in a nascent phase, let innovation take its course, right, and define the boundary conditions, right, which are concerns to the regulators. And this sort of an environment will allow the opportunity for growth of the ecosystem, for growth of the industry players, as well as the industry participants. I think India should definitely take this approach, because historically, what we have seen is that any country which promoted innovation, right, are the ones that benefited the most out of it, in terms of economic growth, prosperity, and any technology, right? Any technology. I think crypto, we have seen the revolution, the internet times, and even when internet was new, not everything about internet was good, right? And we never felt like when internet was new that, okay, we will be playing with mobile applications, right? We'll be booking cabs, and yes, it's a part of evolution, right? Right now we are in the very early phase of the infrastructure setting, and this is the time when we would want Indian government to come up with favorable regulations which will allow industry players and entrepreneurs to start venture out in this space. Mr. Bandyopadhyay mentioned that blockchain and crypto, are they are linked, but one is the technology, the other is the asset part of it, or so I think, keeping that aside, I think the perception that Indians have, right, people who are in this space, that's not something which is conducive to starting up, to venturing out in this space, right? I think we would need to create an environment where people are open about it, vocal about it, and then openly proudly doing startup in this space, right? That is when 3 years down the line we will see that shift, because my time lagta hai, right? CoinDCX, in the last 3.5 years we have come this far, and this is like less than 5%. We still have a lot more room to grow. All of these ventures who are thinking about starting up, right? I think that will they will also need time, and we as a country need to create a conducive environment so that we can promote these startups, right? And regulation should allow innovation. Right now exchanges are innovating, whether it is peer to peer way, so that at least Indians can continue to be a part of this new age asset class. In exchanges are ready to self regulate. Mr. Gandhi mentioned about some assumptions, right? I've noted them down. One is like crypto owners want to comply with law. We want to deal with crypto in legal means, tax laws. All of that is something that we are very much open to, right, as an exchanges. And then we've been working in that direction along with industry players, along with industry bodies. We want to work in this. We want to solve this, and globally there are frameworks. The industry has been regulated. And if they are able to do it, then why not India? We don't want to be the country which is falling behind in terms of this innovation. And I think the solution to this would be to create a robust and flexible enough regulatory framework which will allow the innovation to happen, and will also solve all the concerns, all the apprehensions that the government has. By defining some boundary condition, exchanges and industry players should be allowed to operate within that boundary, right? Which, as you mentioned, Mr. Sood, right, which is the tool for the prosperity, for the for the GDP growth of the country, rather than treating crypto as a weapon. I think there might be some concerns that the government has, but all of them can be solved by implementing the tools. Now there are, see, blockchain is very transparent as a technology, right? Even more transparent than our fiat systems currently, right? And if we use the right tools, right technology, then I think we can create even a better ecosystem than we currently have, right? Using the fundamentals of blockchain technology and making it transparent, right? Every single money movement, every single flow of value is being tracked right now. Exchanges are heavily regulated. Exchanges are KYC compliant. We are KYC compliant. We have stringent checks in place to make sure that investors are protected. We have a 7M regulatory 7M code, which allows that only selected tokens which we feel are doing a good job are only the ones that Indians are getting exposed to. So the investors are protected, right? And this is something that we will not have all the answers to on day one. Industry players
Yes.
and the policy makers need to work hand in hand together to come up with the right answer. I think that is the sort of approach that India need to take. We need to optimize the use of existing laws as much as possible, and the least number of additional laws to be passed, to say that okay, this is the framework that exchanges can at least work in for now, and then over the time, as we get more and more understanding, we will tweak these rules framework, so that at least the innovation is not getting hindered. And last point I would like to add here is that there has been massive amount of interest from Indian youth to understand blockchain, to understand crypto as an asset class. And it is relatively new asset class. And of course, I mean, there is volatility. All of that I feel is a function of time. Over the next 5-10 years, you will see the volatility going down over time. And that is the nature with any asset class. As the market cap increases, the volatility goes down. So I believe as industry players, we need to focus on educating customers about crypto, right, and demystifying the subject. I think there's lot of confusion, and I speak to lots of people on a daily basis. Everyone has their own sort of thoughts around it. And I had my own apprehension 7 years back, but then when I started reading about the subject, I think all of that just got cleared, right? And I think there's lot of educational activities that exchanges are doing, and I think that is also very important in terms of spreading the right education, the right knowledge around it, because I can see there's a lot of confusion about the whole space, right? Whether it is blockchain, crypto, same private cryptocurrencies, public cryptocurrencies, there's so much confusion. I think with
Yeah.
dialogues like this, with events like Hodl, right? I think this is important to discuss this topic, and highlight the potential of this new technology, and see how we can create a positive regulatory framework which will lead India, and then contribute to a good factor in terms of the Indian GDP growth. That would be my take. And before my parting thoughts is exchanges are very much open to comply with all the laws of the land, and whatever government wants to do, we are more than happy to support them, share the data with them, work with them. It's just that we would want India to come up with favorable framework so that exchanges can prosper, entrepreneurs can prosper, and we create a positive crypto ecosystem rather than having an environment where we are trying to see whether we should ban it or not. That would be my take.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think Dr. Rai is back with us and just in time. Dr. Rai is uniquely positioned to give us a view on another important aspect of cryptocurrency because quite apart from the financial hurdles that it faces, there are also issues of security. Cryptocurrency is now being used increasingly in ransomware activities. But I think, Sumit, the point that you made about the blockchain being a very open and transparent uh, uh, system, that has been largely borne out in actual law enforcement activities. And I'm sure Dr. Rai would be aware of this, uh, that recently the FBI recovered a large ransom paid out to Russian hackers by simply analyzing the blockchain and figuring out where the transactions have been. And that's not the first time that that happened. I think a law enforcement agency equipped with the right types of tools, the right type of training, can easily exploit the blockchain as much as criminals do. But I'd like to hand this over to Dr. Rai. Welcome, Dr. Rai, and I hope we will be able to hear your views on all aspects that you think are relevant from your expertise.
Thank you, Mr. Sood. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Thank you, Mr. Sood, and I must apologize for having some technology problem in between coming, going the system there. So while I was able to listen, but I was not able to participate effectively the way I'm supposed to do that. I have heard Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Bandyopadhyay, and the last speaker who's from the industry. I have a different perspective on the entire issue. If you give me 5 minutes, I will try to
Of course.
address the issues in which, in my view, need to be seen what transformation is going on. All of us agree that we are in a fourth stage of the digital transformation, and Mr. Gandhi and myself was involved in 1982-83 when we were doing the MICR. That was also a digital transformation aspect there. But like any digital transformation, this transformation also has the capability to disrupt everything. The entire control and systems which were in place in long time ago, about 40 years ago or 30 years ago, today the systems have changed and the controls have changed. Now, this digital transformation, one thing is that it has brought a lot of benefits, a lot of productivity, a lot of efficiency to the system. It has certainly created a wealth to the nation, wealth to the individuals there, and it brings a lot of promising to us. Now, this digital transformation has a different component than what we have seen in the past. Today, we are talking about artificial intelligence. We are talking about a blockchain. We are talking about different next generation communication technology, different kind of a components we are talking about it there, while keeping the earlier components also into the picture. Now, if I focus purely on the financial system, this digital transformation now is threatening to take away the entire financial system from the banks and the central bank to a unsupervised kind of a network. And we have seen how the NPCI, which is a Section 8 company, is playing a big role, very useful role when we talk about the digital payment. 2 billion transactions are happening in the terms of digital transformation there. We have to see the technology from the perspective of the technology. Mr. Gandhi would remember in 1984 when the RBI started implementing the ledger system, the bank ledger system, there was a lot of resistance mindset. How do we marry the technology with the new, with the old system, what we had? And same thing, Mr. Gandhi certainly had the system, and he was part and parcel key man in the MICR systems also there. But if you look at overall the system, we have now moved to the core banking solution, anytime banking, anywhere. Who goes to the bank? Entire system has changed there. So the technology brings a disruption. Technology need to be seen from the perspective of the technology. We don't have to look at what procedures we have. We need to look at it. what technology requires us to change the process there. Now, if I come back to the cryptocurrency, it's a de facto position that we have the cryptocurrency scenario. I can tell you the incident. I went about 3 years ago in a Bangalore in a CI and Karnataka government seminar. After the meeting, a lot of young people gathered me that why you are doing this thing, why the government is doing this thing, and those are the days when RBI started looking at blocking the banning the entire cryptocurrency there. The question which normally I ask and I put forward for all of you is that can we stop at technology innovations and the implementation of technology into the system? Can we stop? I don't want to answer for all of them, but I can answer for myself. We cannot stop it. We have not been able to stop technological innovation, and we will never been able to stop the technological innovations there. We need to look at it as the technology and marry it in our system, change the processes there. We don't have to look up from a fixed angle, from the domain angle. I with humbly and very respectfully differ slightly with my good friend Mr. Gandhi. He laid out the condition. If I have to look at it, I will not lay out the condition. Let me look at it the de facto position there. China is looking at the crypto system for the last 10 years there. Banks after the central bank in different parts of the world, they are going very, very carefully. They are not laying down the things. Only thing they are saying that the central bank must have the regulator must have a say and must have a control. And that is a very finely accepted part also there. But we must look at it, what technology needed, and we need to change it. Today, we are at one point of a time, RBI was the only regulator. Today we have number of regulators. We have a SEBI, we have a RBI, now we are going to have a e-commerce regulator, we are going to have a privacy regulator, and what all telecom regulator, power regulator. Each one of them is looking at the same data, same set of data. Each one looking at a different concept, a different way. So I think today we need to look at it how we adopt technology and we change our process rather than going with the old ideas, rather than the ideas which were happening in the real time and try to merge with the technology. It will never happen. It will never happen. We will be able to create more chaos there. I was reading the Financial Times. The entire market cap, the day for yesterday, it was projecting to be a crypto of $4 trillion. That's the kind of a thing there. Can we, by taking a different steps, can we create a chaos in $4 trillion dollar market? Mr. Bandyopadhyay said, and rightly said it also, RBI is worried about the consumer, RBI is worried about the investment, RBI is about tax. I agree with that. There should be the steps there. But we need to modernize, we have to look at it. I think the best way is that the regulators must come forward to democratize their system. They should not look at purely from the starting from the finance single, from the fixed point of view. They should look at from the open mind, put up a committee of the technological experts, of the financial expert, domain expert there, and they should work out the system. We need to look at the system, we need to reform the system at this point of a time, because this is the future, and this future will go years together, maybe decades we need to go that. Of course, the system will transform. And I remind my friend in the regulators, the system have been reformed when we went from a clearing or manual clearing system to the MIC clearing system. Now we at the time of a check, we are putting an image there, and everything is sorted out image. We are anytime any banking. The way, if you don't look at it, I'm sure we'll be threatening to our central bank system. We will be threatening our banking system. Larger point is that we must look at what should be the role of the central bank. What should be the role of the banks there in this entire digital-led transformation, whether it's a finance or any economical factor there. That's a larger issue. This is a time. We cannot close our mind simply looking at the on a one aspect of the controlling and regulating. We can't look at it there. There will be a dual system, there will be a hybrid system. While the central bank will certainly come back, the digital currency is a de facto position, it will come back. Maybe our Mr. Bandyopadhyay was saying, and the Honorable Finance minister also has said it. They're coming up with the a kind of a policy. They're coming up with the regulation there. I'm sure it will come up. But we need to look at it how this system remains. The first of all, the second for the first point I said, now central bank and the bank must look at their role, what role they are going to play. They must democratize their role. They need to play the role in line with the technological evolution. That's one. Second factor is that there is a confusion world over whether crypto is a currency or is an asset or a token or what we have. I think that aspect need to be deliberated in detail, and we must understand what we want to categorize this technological evolution. How do you want to categorize that? Because the roles of the central bank, roles of my policies and regulation will get depend upon how I categorize it. Today, if you look at it, the FEMA is applicable, competition law is applicable, capital market is available, RBI is applicable. Four regulators are impacting on the same kind of a thing. Today we are talking about convergence of technologies, convergence of processes, and convergence of the people there. That's what we are talking convergence. We are not talking about singular aspect of anything, whether it's technology, process, or regulator. We are talking about convergence of the thing. So we need to define, take a call. We are in the threshold of a digital transformation. We need to define what we are, what do we want, how do we address the issue. That's part, Mr. Sood. I thought let me answer what my other panelists was speaking about it. It's not a simple issue. Asset, you follow KYC, do 1, 2, 3. It's not a simple issue. And I will quote many other things also. Coming back to the issue which you addressed me, the security issue need to be planned when we plan our role. What kind of a policy we do, security should be embedded a part of it. Entire crypto exchange is a technological kind of a solution architecture there. It will have the same security issues. You talk about a ransomware, you talk about the software skit called malware, it will have a same issue and maybe much more complex. Because we are embedding the technologies convergence over here. Much more complex issue will arise because of the implementation of this technological blockchain or the crypto kind of a many kind of things there. We need to be very clear. The crypto was evolved by purely by keeping track of the privacy. But today, because these are all software devices are there, software gadgets are there, the security issue comes back there. And we need to look at it, the security aspect along with the privacy. So we need to merge together privacy and security together and evolve a appropriate architecture. And if you read about it, couple of days ago, Ethereum, $600 million they lost. And Mr. Sood yourself was mentioning about the ransomware State Bank of India case. Let's set the better how the systems are there. We still have not stabilized our UPI system there. I have been telling the concerned kind of a organization who is regulating entire thing there. But we need to go a way forward, leverage the existing potential of the technology and secure our system. And I must say that security issues are going to be very, very complex. Let us first of all understand the basic issue, lay down the rule in a democratized manner, the democratic manner, which can sustain. The RBI Act was 1935 and it is standing there. So we need to look at the system which should stand at least next 25 years, nothing more than that, but 25 years, because it will take minimum 5 to 7 years to stabilize any system. If and in during this time the technological evolution also will, innovations will also take place. We need to keep track of it there. So security issues are going to be much more complex. Ransomware, what you said, Mr. Sood, is going to be a chain kind of a reaction. It can transform one country to another country, and that could create a geopolitical aspects there. So I think we need to look at all the aspects comprehensively in a rather than a hurried manner, slipshod manner. We need to look at the technology, how technology is going to play a role, how we can handle technology. Look at the policy process, look at the regulator's role, we look at the stakeholders' role, and embed security at each and every time so that we have a good financial system for the next 25 years. Thank you very much. And I must say that if anyone fields anywhere in the world, that they can stop technology, they can regulate the virtual world in a real manner, I am afraid there will be a chaos and there will be a problem. The same thing will work against, they want to protect the interests of the consumer, investment, government. It will work against those interests which they want to protect it. Thank you very much for Mr. Sood bearing with me. And I'm sorry,
No, thank
Mr.
you.
Gandhi, I said something, but I remember my friend in the RBI, Mr. Ganesh, and Mr. Who was the ED in the RBI. Fantastic thing they said it. They introduced one step, the two-factor authentication. Very, very wise step. They did it. Now, what impact it has, world over, it has adopted there. I think the RBI need to look at it and the regulator look at it more progressive manner rather than from a conservative manner. Thank you very much, Mr. Sood, for giving me time.
Thank you, Dr. I think that is a fantastic contribution to this very healthy debate, and I think that point has been lost a little bit by anyone who's tried to look at this from a regulatory perspective. That ultimately you have to decide between whether you are a society living in freedom or you are a society living in fear. And we can be fearful of technology and we can find everything wrong with it, but there's an assumption inbuilt there that that we do not have the tools to deal with it, and the very tools that cause us to fear something about it also give us the ability to deal with it. Blockchain fundamentally is transparent, so if there is any kind of illicit activity going on, in some ways it is more transparent than other forms of illicit activity, and that tool has been developed keeping that in mind. So ultimately, I think what we come down to is what the Supreme Court also looked at when it struck down the RBI circular. The Supreme Court stressed the need for an evidence-based approach, because these are all points that have been raised over and over again by old world regulators, saying things like, we don't know how to regulate this, we don't have the technology to regulate this, this is anonymous, etc. But what the Supreme Court said was that let's have an evidence-based approach. You feel that this is threatening the monetary system. What's your evidence? Now, $4 trillion or anything in the larger scale, in the larger scheme of things, is not such a large amount as to threaten any worldwide system. So we have the time to experiment. We have the time to give our young entrepreneurs a free hand, and for them to develop together with the regulator a sound framework for ensuring that India is not left behind in the technological race. I think Dr. Rai is right. We can ban it, but that doesn't mean that 180 other countries are going to do the same thing. We have to be in step with the rest of the world. And certainly a ban or a prohibition is never an answer to anything. There are always better solutions. And I think that's something that Dr. Rai has helped us also just keep sight of, that there can be solutions that are short of simple fear mongering and simple prohibition. Now, one question I would like to ask is, I think I'll start with Mr. Gandhi again, is, in my view, and let's work on this assumption, in my view, we have gone past a stage, and I think the Supreme Court judgment was helpful because it's given us a 2-year window amongst regulators and policymakers. It's put a pause button on an instinctive knee-jerk reaction of prohibition. It's allowed us to think of other possible ways of regulation, about confronting our fears with this technology and developing tools to deal with it. And I think in that sense, there has been some movement. I saw an article the other day which said that the finance ministry is now thinking of allowing cryptocurrency as a commodity. Now, I'd love to hear from the panel here. I'll start with Mr. Gandhi. What would a good regulatory system look like to you for cryptocurrency? Would it be something that already fits into the existing regulatory system? Because we already have a securities regulator who can take care of this as a commodity. We have a monetary system regulator, which is the RBI, which can take care of this as a currency. Or do you think there's a need for a more elaborate or more specialized regulatory system? So, Mr. Gandhi, and then I'll move to Dr. Rai again on this, and then take the industry's view.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, first of all, my view is that crypto is basically an asset, equivalent to a commodity. That's so once we accept this as an asset or a commodity, then we have existing law, legal framework, which will be possible, under which it will be possible for allowing citizens to deal in that commodity or property or asset. So we will not require any separate additional regulatory arrangement. It is only a simple declaration that crypto is an asset. Once it is done, or a commodity, whatever name legal framework will be coming. So once that is done, then commodity exchanges, but the same principle will apply to crypto exchange. Then automatically people can start dealing in buying, selling, holding, whatever. So those things will automatically be setting in. But the critical question which we'll still need to answer legally is about the origination of the crypto asset. That's the mining, the first part of it. The person who first gets it. How do we deal with that? That again, there are existing legal arrangements are there, in the sense that if somebody finds a piece of diamond in his own land, how the law will deal with that. So that is again, that is, it is possible for the country to deem that as a capital gain or whatever method. So on that basis, things can go on. The most important point is that it must be accounted, in the sense that authorities should be able to get hold of the information relating to, or the citizens will have the obligation to declare what is their holding of crypto asset for the tax purposes and other thing. But to support that, the exchanges may have to have, I am not very sure whether right now it is there, a kind of depository information relating to who owns how much, who bought how much, who sold how much. It need not be information relating to whom he sold or from whom he bought. That is a secondary, that is relating to payment. That is not the immediate concern of the government. Government concern will be the value, the property a person owns, a set of commodities or a set of wealth the person owns. That is what will be required. So that should be possible. I would suppose that that depository can kind of be created. So once that is done, the third question which will come up is that once people start using this asset as a means of payment, that is where the monetary authorities concerned will start stepping in. So that is where right now, once it is considered as an asset, people are always free to use goods for part of payment, like a barter. Like even today in many villages, laborers are paid in terms of grain. Even the government arrangement, like a Mandrika, they are part of the payment is in terms of grains only. So that way, an asset can always be utilized for making payments towards economic activity, whether it is buying goods or buying services or whatever. That is again, it is a valid legal activity. When the monetary authority is concerned will stepping in is that if in large scale, if people start using this particular asset as a means of payment, then certain arrangements will have to be there. One, first, monetary authority would like to have always the information about what is the total stock of this particular asset. Then how many transactions are being carried out using this asset. These two are information which monetary authority will require. Like the original concept of currency has been expanded into M1, M2, M3, M4. Today we have the bank deposits are M3, cash is M1. Like that, we may have a concept of M6, M7, which may include the crypto. It is possible. So once that information is available, then the next question monetary authority will be worrying about whether monetary transmission will be possible using this set of money. That is where right now it is not very clear. Research is not there because it is a completely new concept. So there we may have an open mind to how to deal with that, how to ensure that the monetary transmission will take place even through the crypto assets. That's a thing which have to be evolving. But I would believe that any asset today, any asset always is sensitive to monetary policy actions. So same way, crypto asset, I would believe, it is only a belief. I do not have any the research output to confirm that. That way, obviously, researchers will have to find a method of doing it. But I would believe that any assets will be sensitive to monetary action. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to give the last word to Dr. Rai here. We have to close the session in 4 minutes. But I think Dr. Rai, if you had a view on what sort of crypto ecosystem should come into place, I'd love to hear it in a couple of minutes if you can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Sood. I would tend to partly agree with Mr. Gandhi, but with the precaution with the notes there. As I said, we must lay down the country now should look back at the what system we require in technological system. We cannot go a 1935 RB Act kind of system there or any other regulator act there. The best will be to lay down the technology will evolve, technology innovation will take place there. Best is to lay down a basic principle, some of them which Mr. Gandhi said it there, that the entire, I mean who sold it, who bought it, that's a secondary issue there. That is for different kind of a regulator to look at it there. But first look at the monitoring system. The country should know at one point of a time what happened, what transactions happened. So lay down the basic principle, a broader framework. Then the technological innovation which take place, they confirm, they lay down the regulation, confirming those basic kind of regulation and basic framework there. And I think Mr. Gandhi proposed it. I would only suggest the request the RBI and of course through Mr. Gandhi also, that they must look at from the basic principle side there and leave their role of regulating the security, regulating each and every aspect. Let us be very clear that we cannot, as put forward by one of my friend, Mr. Padmanabhan, sometime there, that we cannot look at the entire system like from the police station point of view. We need to look at it from a broader principle. The RBI or any other regulator look at the job, what they are supposed to do with that. They can't look at all aspects of the thing. Lay down the basic
Okay.
principle, and then each
Yes.
regulator may go and lay down the regulation which reflect their sector, which reflect their charter, which they are supposed to regulate it there. So, and everything should be interfaceable, interoperable there. What should not overreach their regulator. Today, if you look at it, RBI, or let me not take the RBI. Every regulator, they have a strength in only one particular sector. You should talk about
Yes.
the SEBI, you talk about the telecom, you talk about the power, you talk about the RBI, and then two regulators which may emerge there. They have a particular strength in one direction. If any regulator wants to take role of all the or regulating everything A to Z, it's going to be difficult. So lay down the basic principle and allow the regulators to follow those basic principles and lay down the regulation which are interoperable. That's one part of it. Security should be dealt by the security regulator, which is now government is going to announce it there. It should not be dealt by them, and I have seen how it has been messed up. And there is no skill with any other regulator. They will mess it up. 100% they will mess it up. That's why I said when Mr. Padmanabhan and take the name of Mr. Padmanabhan everywhere, that when he put the two-factor authentication, idea was in lesser security but authentication of the interest of the money. That was the larger interest part of it. If they had looked security, things would have been different aspect there. So security
Sorry,
should
Dr.
not
Rai,
be
but
left
I'm being
by
told
any
that we
other
are
means
coming to
other
the
than
end of
only
our
by the
time now.
regulator there. I think we need to look at in a more comprehensive, broad factor manner. This is the essence of the time, and we must do that. Thank you very much, Mr. Sood. I take an
Thank you.
overshoot, and I think
Thank
we'll
you.
have time to debate more on this aspect of time.
I'll just wrap us up in a minute. Thank you everyone for being here. Mr. Bandyopadhyay, I think, voiced very clearly what the fears were with respect to this industry, and Mr. Gupta has, I think, speaks for a large part of the industry when he told us that whatever regulations are there, the industry is keen to comply to ensure that this becomes that there is longevity to this movement. And I think the insights given by Mr. Gandhi and Dr. Rai on what that regulation could look like and really the fundamental principles of regulation. I think, Dr. Rai, you could teach a class to regulators on what good regulation should be. And I think we have all come out at the end of this session as a great start to HODL 2021. And thank you all very much for giving everyone a very good overview of the crypto ecosystem. With that, I'm going to end. Thank you all for your participation. Bye-bye.
Thank you, speakers.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tamal sir. Thank you, Sumit sir.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Sood.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank our partners, our title partners ZPay and CoinDCX, powered by partner CoinSwitch Kuber, brought to you by partner BitGeeks, platinum partner Facebook, gold partner Geotis, bronze spotter Hubigo. Delegates, look forward to the upcoming sessions of Huddle 2021, and thank you.